Okay, I wasn't sure I was going to get a signal out here. Looks like this is going to work. So I'm jumping in here on this Labor Day and wanted to visit with you for just a few minutes. We've had enough change in how things look. Let's see if I can get over here where I can get a little bit better view. I don't know if that's any better or not. We'll try that. Maybe that'll work. We'll let Facebook build a little audience here. I want to talk to you for just a second. We've got some things going on that are okay. All right, good. Looks like we're getting an audience now. All right, Brent, hope things are going well for you where you're at. I wanted to talk about that just briefly this morning. We have a lot of stuff going on in our world right now. We have a hurricane headed to the East Coast, should be arriving sometime in about 10 days or so. If it hits the East Coast, if there is not something supernatural that takes place that breaks that up just a little bit or shears it off and heads it up the East Coast and avoids that. We have fires all over Montana, Idaho, Oregon, and Washington State, devastating that area, and there's no conversation about that whatsoever anywhere in the world, which just amazes me. If you Google the popular news channels, not a single person's talking about, not a single major national media outlet is talking about the devastation of the fires in that part of the area. Brent's there. He lives in the middle of it and is working as an EMT at one of the fire stations right now. So very important that we support those people and that we pray for them and that we encourage them and do what we can to help, because the area covered by that is larger than the state of Pennsylvania, and yet the coverage on it on the news is zero, and that bothers me. But that's kind of my tirade for the day. That's about all I'm going to say. But that does bother me. We need to talk about that. We need to understand that those people need our support as much as people in other places do as well. And so let's remember that we're all in this thing together, and we're important to each other. We're important. We're family, and this family, regardless of where we're at, we're always affected and touched, because the larger our footprint becomes. You know, the moment that I said something about Brent, had an amazing friend who said, "What can I do to help? I'm in the area, blah, blah, blah." Those are cool things. You know, this is what we've been able to do because we've been together. And bringing people together in this forum, in this space, in this place has been pretty amazing. And I have a friend, Monica Williams, who has worked her ever-living tail off in Houston to make sure people got the help and the support that they need. And so, it's sad when it takes something like that to bring people together, but when people come together, let's remember what it is. We have a common cause. That common cause brings us together and it eliminates all of the other barriers. They all get washed away, burned off, whatever illustration you want to use. That's something powerful, and I'm really amazed as I watch it take place, and try to encourage it as much as I possibly can. And you all are very supportive of each other and jump in to help when you can, and I really appreciate that. I've had comments from many of you, and I'm glad that you do what you do. And this morning, watched a live feed with Tanya. I just saw that she came on, and it's very late where she's at, so I thought I'd better mention her because she's important too. She was talking about relationships and how important our relationships are, and making the most of those relationships, and taking the time to say hi, taking the time to say thank you, taking the time to say happy birthday, which in this case it's her birthday, so happy birthday, Tanya. And but it's very important that we use whatever forum that we have to be encouraging and supportive of each other, where we have an opportunity to pray, to be able to ask if we can help, to provide help and support. Take that platform like Monica did and use it to thank people for their involvement and to identify people who needed to be rescued. And those are really important opportunities for us, and we can take the platforms that we have, and we can find a way to use them to be an encouragement to somebody else. And that's what I want to encourage you to do here on this Labor Day, when it's kind of, for me, a day of hot dogs and kicking my feet up in the air and leaning back and doing very little for this day. But this is an important day because not everybody gets to do that. Those people who are battling in Houston, they don't get to take this day off. Those people that are battling in Montana and Idaho and Oregon, they don't get to, and California. California is now affected in a pretty major way too. They don't get to take the day off. They are laboring to try to preserve and rescue and restore something that is important. It's important because we all need it. I mean, we're starting to see the impact of the hurricane on the gas prices, because we have so many refineries that sit in the Gulf right there next to Houston that got clobbered. That got absolutely clobbered by this hurricane. And so we're going to feel the impact of that for some time. And the people who lost their homes and all of their stuff, they're going to feel the impact of that for a lifetime. I saw a friend of mine in Houston with her arm around a 94-year-old man that she takes care of, and his house was destroyed. Everything that he had accumulated in 94 years is now all gone. The only thing he has is my friend with her arm around him. It's a very precious scene. It's a very precious look. It's a very precious thought. But on this day, when some of us get a chance to relax, some of you are giving it everything that you've got to try to do something for somebody else. Some cases it's for you, but most of the time it's for somebody else. What causes us to rally are those words, "Will you help me?" And it causes us to take action. It moves people to do something. And so I've spent an awful lot of time trying to get you to understand and act upon those words. Listen for them, identify them, figure out where they come from, figure out what you can do to help. Most of the time I talk about business as solving other people's problems at a profit. In this particular case today, life is about helping to solve other people's problems. A little different than business, but it's a necessity when you think about the fires that are ravaging the Northwest right now and starting to make their way into other places. There's an awful lot of devastation going on. When you think about what's happening in Houston, there's an awful lot of stuff that's going to have to happen. We're going to have a lot of problems that have to be solved. And if this hits on the East Coast, we're going to have a lot of problems going to have to be solved. This is going to require an awful lot out of us as a people. And this is where we discover who we really are and what we can really do to help. And we'll find solutions, because that's what we do. We're problem solvers by nature. And taking those problem solving skills and learning how to use them in other formats, which we talk about all the time. But today, I wanted to talk about, well, most of us relax from the labor. Some of us cannot do that. Some of us have to labor. So I've been yakking, I've been talking, and I see that lots of people have joined. I'm just really interested. So what do you all have to say today? How do you see? I'm just now starting to see comments coming through. So tell me, good morning, Andy. Tell me what you see going on and what you see as, Walter's on the other side of the world. Andy right now is on the other side of the world. Rob's on the other side of the world. What do you see going on in this country as you see people starting to pull themselves together and start to work together to try to make things happen? I apologize. I did not have the comments turned on, and so now I'm seeing this. Yes, we all do need to support each other. Thank you for that comment, Tanya. Anybody else, make some comments about this. I want to hear what you have to say. This is important. This is a way for us to help. I made a post, and I didn't have all the right information when my son was being transported, but immediately somebody responds, says, what can I do to help there? Because I used to do that. I've been in that spot. So I think it's really good. I think it's really good that you never know when that comment is going to be the thing that triggers somebody else to be able to help. I made a comment to Monica the other day that I appreciated what she was doing, and immediately she tags me in a post, and I pulled some things over and I sent that to some people that I knew that might be able to benefit from what she had. You never know when those things are going to impact somebody else. And so let's make sure that when these kinds of things happen, when a disaster like this happens, and we have several of them happening right now, we got all of the fires that are going on across Montana, Oregon, Idaho, Washington, California. and the devastation that's there, and having people be aware of the fact that there's something happening there. Even if it's not on the national news, there's something happening there. Now, the national news has picked up on it because it's California, but for some reason people forget how important Montana is. I mean, Montana is the mining state. There's mines and timber and all kinds of stuff that comes out of that area. And we've got to be aware of the fact that that's happening, and it's going to have an impact on us. But more importantly than that, it's going to have an impact on the people who live there for a long time to come. Yeah, I agree, Walter. Sometimes something like this does exactly what Walter's saying, and he says that sometimes something needs to break that cycle of national negativity, and that's what we see happening. I don't want to be critical of the fact that nobody's talking about what's going on in Montana, but I do want to raise awareness of what's going on in Montana. I do think that the reason why we're having the devastation from the fires is because we've had a national policy for more than 30 years that is a stupid mistake. But rather than talk about how stupid the mistake is, let's support the people that are there, and then let's work to change that in the future so we don't have this happen again. Those are the kind of things that we have to be able to do. And as Jeremy's saying, we need to be able to pull together and pull together when we have a choice. Not just because something happened, but when we have a choice. So that we can do these things for the benefit of one another when there's not a disaster. Wouldn't that be cool? Wish it didn't take a crisis before people would start to respond to each other and respond to one another's needs and respond to each other and work together as a community and stop looking at the things that divide us and start looking at the things that pull us together. Because the things that unite us are way more powerful than the things that divide us. I'm trying to read the comments as we go here. Yeah, Tanya's saying that some of the policies have reduced the amount of fires that they've had in Australia. And we need to learn from that. We had this thing figured out until we made some bad decisions. And remember this, when you make a little decision that has, this is my little rant for the moment. When you make a little decision that sounds like a really good idea at the time, it may work for the moment, but the long-term effects of that are going to be more devastating than you can imagine. I remember when the ban on controlled burns policy came down from the federal government. Okay, I got to get into the politics of this, and I don't want to, but I've got to mention this because this is it. I remember watching a news report of the governor of the state of Montana. I can't remember when it was, and I can't remember who he was, but I remember him standing at the podium, and he's getting national press from this, and he said, "You have just made a decision that will turn our state into a tinderbox. It won't be this year, it won't be next year, but there will be a time when you will burn our state to the ground." And with tears streaming down his face, he stomped away from the podium. And now here we are almost 30 years later, and we have that happening. And it's devastating. And I can't get that image out of my head. A little decision that sounded like it was a really smart idea at the time has had devastating effects. So if you like the content of this is not my daily thing. I do a daily thing every day. But I woke up this morning and I said, I got to talk about this. I can't get this out of my head. I've got my sons involved in the fires. I've got friends involved in Houston. People everywhere doing things that take them outside of their normal activity. And this was important enough to me that I made sure that I sent an email to everybody that I know saying that I was going live. I want people to hear this message, but if it's important, do what Mary just did and share it with somebody else. Share this message with somebody. All you have to do is just hit the share button right there and it'll go, okay? So just do that. Share this with somebody else. They'll benefit from it, I promise you. We need to encourage each other. Do that thing. Just go ahead and share. Do this for me. If you've liked the content that I've given today, give me some love, give me some shares, put some likes on there. Do something so that I'll know that I didn't take this time on Labor Day to just rant, but that it was actually valuable. I need to know if this was valuable to you, because making valuable content available is really important. So I want to know if you appreciate this. So I'm going to encourage you to share a little appreciation right now. I just think it's important we get this message out, and we talk about the place where nobody's talking about. That's Montana. And we do what we can to help the people in Houston, because Houston has always been kind of for the last 20 years, kind of a second home for me. When I felt drained and I felt like I needed to be energized, I've gone to Houston, and I've worked in Houston, and it always energizes me. It always energizes me. And it's been my place to go that restores for me. And so it's had a special place in my heart for a long, long time. And I've come to love a lot of people that live in Houston. And I feel very, very close to them. All I have to see is that somebody's from Houston when they like one of my live feeds, and I'm like, cool, that's my neighbor right there. So I feel like my neighborhood is devastated. I lived for years in Montana and Wyoming, and I'm watching that place go up in smoke, and it's crushing me on the inside. I have my son in the midst of all of that, and it's crushing me on the inside. And I wish there was more that I could do. And I'm here in Alabama, and there's a limitation to what I can do. The body doesn't do the things that it used to do, but I can do this. This is what I can do. So if this is helpful, let me know that it's helpful. Thank you for joining me today. I had to just get this off my chest. I had to say this because I felt like it was an important message that we get out on this Labor Day, that while we're taking it easy, and many of us are, while we're taking it easy, there are people who are doing everything they can with the last energy that they have to try to help people who are hurting. And that's how we need to be all the time, not just when we have these kinds of things take place. Thank you for joining me today. Thank you for the love. Thank you for the likes. Thank you for the shares. Thank you for what you've done. Now, if this has been helpful, don't hesitate to share it out with somebody else, because I promise you, they'll thank you for it too. All right. Love you all. Look forward to talking to you tomorrow on a regular time.